What is up, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of Father Dynasty. I am your fatherly host, Chew, here in the manhole, here to talk a little fatherhood and a little Dynasty fantasy football. And I have a very special guest with me today. We have known each other since the diaper days, and his bachelor party in New Orleans last year is all one big haze. He's got a doctorate in physical therapy, and I will need his services after he whoops my ass in pool again. Trevor, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Chew. Thanks for having me on, bud.
Ab-
Exciting day. Finally on
abs-
the podcast.
That's right. And I mean, we're inching closer. As of this recording, tomorrow is the first game for the NFL season. So the Bills, the Rams. So are you excited to get into the swing of things?
Oh yeah, man, I'm gonna have the game on tomorrow. I can't wait. I've been waiting. College football last weekend was kind of a tease, and
Mm-hmm.
now NFL's here, and we got obviously two of the best teams playing. So what a better way to kick it off than that?
I completely agree. And what better way to kick off this podcast than do a nice little keep trade cut?
Hey,
So I have to choose my favorite. I'm going to keep.
Oh dear. I will trade.
This is kind of wild.
The cut is easy, and it's the last one.
And of course, a couple of little audio snippets from the many keep trade cut segments I've done on here. And Trev, every guest gets their very own unique keep trade cut with 3 different topics and one bonus one that I've incorporated over the last couple of episodes. So are you ready? It'll be keep trade cut, keep, you like that one best, trade, that'd be second, and then cut, of course, will be third.
okay, all right, deal.
All right. And I think they're pretty easy. The second one I think might throw you for a loop a little bit. I'm curious to see your answer. But the first topic here is the college experience. And the 3 ones we have here are Virginia Tech, Radford, and of course where you finished up your schooling, Marymount. So just your overall college experience at each of those places, how would you kind of rank those?
Whew. I think Marymount, my physical therapy school, living in Arlington, Virginia, definitely a keep. Lots of stuff positive for me in that area, and then living in Arlington, Virginia was amazing. You could literally walk to anywhere you wanted to go to, bars, restaurants. You could be at a Capitals game, Nationals game, anything you want, snap of a finger. Definitely keep Marymount. That was probably the coolest part. And you're going to be surprised. I think Rapper's going to come in at my number 2. That's where I spent most of my college career, was there.
Sticky
Uh,
Kitchen.
yeah, the Sticky Kitchen. I mean, you cannot deny that. That was a great time. So you got the Sticky Kitchen coming in at second. And then, believe it or not, Virginia Tech, I was there for a year and a half, but just I loved it there. The campus was great. Big sports place was great. Had a lot of friends there, met a lot of people, a lot of good stuff. But man, Radford, I just loved Radford. I love the smaller class size.
Mm.
My major only had 10 people in it.
Oh, wow.
So very small, yeah, small knit group. But yeah, those are my 3. And believe it or not, VT comes in last. But yet here I go to a VT game this weekend on Saturday, trying to cheer them on after a harsh loss last week.
I was going to say, you did not travel to Norfolk to watch that ass beating, did you? Did you just watch that on TV?
We watched it on TV. Thank goodness, man. I felt bad for the people they showed on TV
I know,
as
right?
they were sitting there cheering. I was like, oh, that's not a place I'd want to be right now.
I couldn't believe it was only a 3. The game was still within reach despite 14 penalties and 5 turnovers. That's unbelievable.
5 turnovers. You can't expect to win after that. So
Ridiculous.
I mean, it was just ugly. So hopefully this Saturday is going to be a better show for them, because if not, it's going to be a long season.
Absolutely. New coaching regime and everything. I think we'll just hope that recruiting classes get better over the next year or 2, because otherwise it's not going to be a good thing for Brent Pry.
Yeah, you hope he can get the guys he wants in there. You know, right now he's playing with other guys, recruits. So you just hope this is a growing year and you get by and you make a bowl at least. But I don't know.
Yeah. And as you referenced Arlington up in Northern Virginia, the second topic, we've got Roanoke versus Northern Virginia. And I love Northern Virginia. Of course, that encapsulates every bit of Northern Virginia. So the 3 I've got here, so Harris Teeter, kind of the importance of like Harris Teeter versus, what's in Roanoke here.
Mhm.
DMV Sports. So, of course, DC, Maryland, Virginia Sports. So, as you were mentioning, the Capitals of being able to go to Marymount and hop, skip, and a jump away is watching Capitals. And then the last one you kind of hinted at as well, I said Top Golf and nightlife because Top Golf should be its own segment, but I know nightlife,
Yes.
of course, being in Arlington was a huge thing as well. So how would you rank those of those Northern Virginia things?
Definitely the nightlife and Top Golf. That's one you can't find down here comparative to Northern Virginia. Like you said, Top Golf is a thing in its own. They got actually 3 of them up there now.
Mhm.
So that tells you anything. 3 Top Golfs in one area is pretty impressive. And then um, just the bars, and you could go to like clubs and see big EDM shows and just big raves. Nothing like that down here. It's pretty wild. My old buddy Dave, Dave, he'd take us
Mhm.
out there. That was his scene, and he'd get us in backstage, or he'd get us in on the rooftop scenes, and it just was incredible.
Nice.
The man had so many accesses. But yeah, so that just blew it out the water. And then um, the big store you mentioned, Harris Teeter. The big one that I loved in Northern Virginia was Wegmans.
Good one too. Yeah.
Wegmans is the store. Um, and then what was my other option? You said Harris Teeter, the nightlife, and then
DMV Sports. So that kind of lumps in all the easily
yes.
accessible sports there.
Yeah, I got to go with sports. That's definitely, I think, number 2. We have some sports down here, but man, going to a Capitals game,
Yeah.
that's my number 1 live sport to watch is hockey. And seeing those guys on the ice, how massive they are and the speed they move at.
Yeah.
Being able to go to a Capitals game is just beats all other things. It's pretty incredible.
I will say I've been there once to watch hockey, and it was actually to watch the Red Wings because I'm a Red Wings fan. Somewhat loosely, I've liked them for 20 years or whatever, but I don't watch hockey quite enough. But I will say, like, we were, almost the absolute top nosebleeds. But there's not a bad place,
Yeah.
not a bad spot in there. I mean, like with how steep it is, you feel like you're looking down like on the ice. Great place, right in the middle of the city, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can have a good seat anywhere, like you said. And I actually kind of like sitting up higher because you can watch the puck travel and you can see the play develop. So
Yeah.
being up high there is really an advantage. I've sat low once before. We just got some tickets, and that's the luxury of being in Northern Virginia too. Patients would have tickets or something. They say, "Hey, you want to go to the game?" Yeah. So one time we sat low, and I like had to keep looking over around the glass, and it kind of ticked me off because I couldn't see.
Yeah.
So I was like, screw this. I like sitting up higher better. So yeah, you can't go wrong there. So yeah,
So-
sports life up there, top notch, baby. Top
Oh, yeah.
notch. Besides the Commanders.
That's right. And of course, I know here in Roanoke, we have the Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs, which is like the 4th incarnation of a minor league hockey team. So hope they stick around, but certainly does not compare to the Capitals or even whatever the lowest level of professional hockey is, which Rail Yard Dogs don't quite cut it.
They brought us home they brought us to a championship this year. Didn't bring it home, but they at least gave some excitement to us. But
Oh
yeah, Capitals, man, you just can't compare to them. It's fun. They're always good. So that's the one DC team we can count on, right?
That's right. Well, so we've got the third topic here, and one I know it's near and dear to your heart because we've of course participated in all of these together as of very recently as well, is bar games. And the 3 I've got here, which we actually played all 3 of them in sequence pretty recently.
Nice.
So we've got pool, darts, and foosball.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very tough choices. Very tough choices. I would have to, believe it or not, darts has always been one of my favorite games to play. When we were in Northern Virginia, there was a bar called Carpool, and they have literally pool tables, shuffleboard, darts, TVs everywhere. It's amazing. And so we go and play darts, have some beer, watch the football games Sundays whenever we didn't have to study, and it was awesome. So I have to say, darts, easiest game to play by yourself too. Pool you can play by yourself as well, but I like darts. I'd have to go. Ooh, as I look at them right now, which one would I choose?
That's right. I would say if you need to play one real quick each just to kind of get the feeling of it, that's okay.
Yeah. Let me go get a quick game in. But yeah, I think I don't know. I like foosball. Foosball is a fun one. I never would have thought I'd say, pool to cut, but I tell you, playing some foosball, get a good game of that,
Mm-hmm.
gets me going, too. Gets me going. But yeah, darts #1. I'd keep that. Probably trade the old foosball for 2, and then pool would come in #3 for me.
That's a tough cut, but I mean,
Surprised myself there, yeah.
as the NFL learned, I mean, in the last week or two, I mean, a lot of tough cuts to get down to the final number there. So
Yeah, honestly, I don't think many people would do that number, but for me, it starts.
I get it. Well, we got the bonus question here, and this is not specifically a keep trade cut, but just a fun one. Of course, being a lifelong Washington Footskin Mander fan, because I want to encapsulate every bit of your fandom. Who would you say, when you got to be on the sidelines with the team, who is your favorite player, or maybe in the locker room, to be around, whether it's their personality or just down to earth guy, or who is your favorite one?
By far, I think my favorite was Kirk Cousins, and then a close #2 was Ryan Kerrigan. That's when I was
Nice.
there. And those guys actually talked to you. They actually made conversation. A lot of them did, but those 2 guys were great. They actually got to know where you're from and knew your family. It's kind of crazy how well they remembered stuff, but
Yeah,
those 2 guys were incredible. And then I think they were kind of the standouts from everybody else. But yeah, you'd be surprised at some of the guys that were really personable. And then, of course, you had your funny guys who you were like, oh, geez, here comes such and such. But dude, Kirk Cousins was the nicest dude I've ever met.
Yeah.
In the NFL, and hated to see him go. But the dude has made some money in his day, and everything panned out just perfect for him on contracts. And dude's killing it. I think this year he's going to have a much better year. He's got some good receivers to throw to, so watch out for that man.
Yeah, I mean, Cousins has the Sean McVay disciple, the offensive coordinator from the Rams, coming over. So I mean, they already have all the weapons there. Now they just have the guy that's not Zimmer, who's just the archaic defensive coach who I think at a certain point probably couldn't physically see the game that he was supposed to be coaching.
Exactly. And dude, this guy loves Cousins too. So, and they hit it off when they were here. So that it's going to be, I don't know what to expect, but I think it's going to be good for Cousins this year and that offense. And then funny enough, Kerrigan's back with Washington now as a coach. They hired him as the defensive
No way, is he
line.
really?
Yeah,
That's cool.
as an assistant coach. I think it happened recently this week.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they just hired him on. So hopefully he'll help out that line and get things going. But did you hear the other day about Chase Young possibly re-injuring or aggravating his ACL? Did you hear that story?
I saw that. I heard something that they said that it might have also been a false story or something, but I'm like, how would that have popped up in the first place if it didn't happen, I guess?
Right. Yeah. How does a story arise like that? And then I got the same thing you saw today where that was a false story. He wasn't even at the camp. And I'm thinking, what?
Someone wore his jersey and just started running around out there.
Yeah, it looks like Chase Young. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you don't mistake that guy. You don't see a body like that and be like, is that Chase Young? No, you know. So I don't know what's going on, but leave it to them to have some sort of another conspiracy thing. But my gosh, you never know.
And I will say, funny story, the only one that I have related to either of those players. So Marley and I, for the year that we lived up in Reston, just outside of the town center, of course, the town center littered with restaurants, bars, all that kind of stuff. And we were going on a date night. I forgot where we ate, but we ended up going to, it's specifically a wine bar. It had outside seating and all that stuff. And we went in, we came back outside. We were sitting there for a while, and Ryan Kerrigan shows up. He actually lives in the town center. I remember looking up an article, there was a big deal of saying he lives there. It's a pretty modest place, certainly considering what his contract is and what he could, I'm sure, get and everything. And it was funny because, of course, he's a very big dude. So but he was sitting down at the time, I think it was, or Marley saw him walk in, and of course, Marley's brother, massive fan of Washington. So that's how she knew, that's who that is, right? And because I looked and I was like, I think, but I was like, he turned away, and I was like, I mean, it's a massive guy, but I was like, I can't see his face. I have no idea. And he and I don't know if it's his wife or his girlfriend, they came back out and they sat down, And as we're about to leave, because she was like, I got to say something, whatever. And she walked over and like didn't freak out or anything. She was kind of like quietly was just like, hey, you know, like my brother like would be, you know, like over the moon. Like he's such a big fan of everything. Like could I maybe like take a picture or something? And his either girlfriend or wife looked really not happy. Not, I think I don't know if it's about like maybe they're maybe having like a nice night to themselves or whatever.
Right.
And he looked like he was just in trouble. So like he kind of sheepishly like, yeah, like he like took the picture real quick and like, but you could tell it was just like the most awkward thing of like, I feel like there was absolutely either a fight happening before we got there or like she wanted just a nice time out. But then Sam Marley and I were just like, huh, all right. But
what did we do?
Right. So Ryan, if you're listening, I'm sure you are. Hope your night got better.
I'm sure. Yeah. Maybe that night. Yeah. Maybe that night ended up well for you.
That's right.
But yeah, he was awesome. So I don't doubt that he did that.
Yeah.
He was a really cool dude. But yeah, they always said him and Kirk Cousins were very frugal with their money. They did not go out and spend it.
Yeah.
And like you said, as much as they got, but they were always frugal. Like I want to say one of them had some old car.
Oh, Kirk had the van.
He had an old car for a long time, and they were like, "Dude, Kirk, you got millions. Get you a new vehicle." And he's like, "I don't need to. This thing still rolls." So that's classy guy. It's funny.
Yeah, it's like, all right, let's have Deshaun Jackson roll up in the Batmobile, and then let's have Kirk Cousins show up in his old like late '80s shaggin' wagon.
yeah, exactly. And they said Alfred Morris did that too. He had some beat up car, and he did that. He's
nice.
number 3 on my list, Alfred Morris. Yeah,
dude, he just grinded, man. I mean, he kept his career, certainly for a running back, and like his style. I feel like he just kept grinding as long as he could. So that's awesome.
I loved his celebration. The old throw, sick.
Yeah. Trevor warmed up. You passed the test, with flying colors, and we'll jump on over here to the injury evaluations.
Ooh, all right, my field. Here we go.
So we've got a couple of ones here. I tried to diversify in the sense of kind of what the injuries themselves are, but of course, all are notable players that had something in the offseason or maybe last season that's kind of been lingering or something that's popped up. And the first one, an incredibly notable one, running back for the Baltimore Ravens, J.K. Dobbins. So he had an ACL tear, and from what it sounded to be, some additional ligament damage in his knee last season. I think it was like end of the preseason, late August. And it sounds as though he is not going to start the season active, but I don't know if they put him on the PUP or anything like that. So he's not on the IR. So presumably he's going to play within the first 4 weeks. But with that amount of time already being out, I know the new thing now is after Adrian Peterson came back and, just tore the field up, the assumption's just like, it's an ACL tear. You give it 8 months, he'll come back, he'll be fine. But I don't know if that's the case with this one. So it seems like there might be more to that. And our ACL tears, is that kind of something that truly has just changed in terms of just how it's treated and how these guys can come back?
Yeah, there's lots of things to it. You're right. Adrian Peterson set a bar that has almost been reached by no one. That man was a freak of nature. He came back and looked stronger and faster than prior, which is incredible. You don't see that ever. So that was something. But yeah, he set that standard, and everybody was like, "Oh, so that's going to be the new thing," and you just don't match. You don't match that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Dobbins, why is it taking so long? It's been over a year because it was, late August, I think, right, is when he tore it. So, there is more damage in there that they're reporting? Is it that they're just being cautious? What's going on? But when I have kind of heard his story and how he's not possibly projected to start this week, you think of, the previous injuries of people who've had ACLs recently, and you think of number one comes to my mind is Burrow. So when he got absolutely destroyed by, I think it was Chase Young, his knee looked like it was just a piece of rubber. Like it got destroyed. He tore his ACL, his MCL, his meniscus, and his PCL. Right. So 4 major structures in the knee. But he came back within, I think he was injured in November, played week 1. So he is ahead of Dobbins right now. And then Jameis Winston is currently in that process right now. And he is is set to start if everything goes well. But you look at Dobbins and you're thinking, well, was something not reported? Did he have a setback? Did they do more repairs while he was in there? So usually when you tear your ACL, they say about 50 to 70% of the time you're going to have a meniscus injury with it, pretty high. But there's also that chance you don't. You possibly could tear your MCL with it, or even just sprain it. So partial tear. You've got that going, and then possibly even two bone bruises from where you have that nasty looking injury, how the leg just kind of shears forward, so you can get a big bone bruise, and that can cause things to be a long time healing as well. So you just don't know if that's it, or you don't know if they're just being cautious and saying, hey, you're a multi-million-dollar guy. We know that if you don't come back fully ready to go, 100% ready to cut, jump, sprint, get hit in the knees, and you re-injure yourself, like, we're out again. Millions of dollars. And part of that could be maybe he's not mentally ready. Maybe he doesn't trust his leg. Maybe he doesn't, cut off of it just the way he wants. He doesn't feel right. So if you don't feel right, you're going to re-injure yourself. And you see all sorts of things like that. And unfortunately, one comes to mind too is Klay Thompson. He tore his ACL and then a little bit later tore his other Achilles on the other side of his body. So your body, you just develop asymmetries during this recovery. And if you don't fully rehab and get back to going strong, it can be another injury. So I don't know if it's that, if there was something that wasn't being reported, or if there's a setback. We just talked about Chase Young having a setback. Was it something like that? But I think probably part of it is that he is a running back and he's desired more things to do in a position like that versus a quarterback who, they have to evade pass rushers and get around and move very fast. Don't get me wrong. But you think of a running back who has to, like we said, get maybe chopped down multiple times, have somebody running at you, you have to avoid them. So I think maybe they're waiting for that. But it's kind of come now. They're doing more and more research that they want about 9 months now for you to wait until you return to the field. And then some, sports medicine guys are even saying, well, I want about a year. And that seems to kind of be the trend now, as you see. And I think these previous guys got to about 10 or 11 months, like Burrow and Winston. But yeah, he's at that year mark already. So will he return in these first 4 weeks is something, but it's kind of sketchy because they picked up Kenyon Drake. So is that a telltale sign? Maybe he's not. So it's going to be a big question mark, which is kind of rough. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's interesting to think about it. And I was kind of looking at that too, like, well, what do you think it is? Is he setback, or are they just being cautious? So $1 million on the line, Chew. What do you do?
That's right. I mean, it was a bizarre season last year so that happened to J.K. Dobbins. Gus Edwards, who's considered a pretty solid backup, he also, I believe, tore his ACL. And then
dude, they hit the injury bug last year.
Unbelievable. And I mean, Lamar Jackson, of course, got hurt also. But with this offseason, they got Mike Davis, the ghost of Mike Davis, I guess. Kenyon Drake swooped him up real quick. So I mean, the fact that they're just kind of, I don't know if maybe it's the fear of last season being like, anyone that we can trust to carry the ball, not fumble it, and maybe average more than 4 yards a carry, we're going to sign them. We're going to stockpile them. And until Dobbins and Gus Edwards are ready, we don't trust it.
I think you're right.
Who knows? But
I mean, they're definitely loading up that backfield for potential of them not being ready, or just fear of what happened last year. I mean, everybody got hurt on that team last year, even defensive backs. Like, didn't they lose one of their top DBs? It just, everything hit them last year.
Unbelievable.
It was rough. Yeah.
Well, looking at somebody who I think as of today the reports are he is ready. So James Robinson of the Jaguars tears his Achilles in December of last year. And I guess the Cam Akers effect of Cam Akers, of course, came back and actually played in the playoffs last season.
And impressive. Very impressive.
Unbelievable. And played a pretty bruising style of football. I think he actually trucked over, I want to say it was a cornerback or something. And I mean, with ease. So with this one, there's the Marlon Mack, the Cam Akers, and of course there's plenty of basketball stories. I think Kevin Durant, and I know you just mentioned Klay Thompson. So I know it's kind of early to tell for a lot of the guys I just mentioned, at least for football wise, but are Achilles injuries no longer like the death knell? I know it seems like at a minimum they're coming back unbelievably quickly. I guess it sounds to be a different way in terms of how it's being rehabbed, and they're getting them back on their feet immediately. But what's the story on that?
Yeah, dude, I think you're right. I think this has shown a big progression here as of lately. Like you said, all those names, how they've rehabbed and have come back and don't really look like they've lost a step. I mean, like you said, Kevin Durant, I look at his stuff and he still looks so incredibly good.
Mm.
But yeah, what they've changed is, the surgery aspect. I can't tell you exactly everything they've changed, but they have made some alterations to that probably. And then, but the big thing that I see on my end is that their protocols have changed. They used to. I start this. So you used to always be afraid of Achilles surgeries, and what used to be, like you said, the Achilles heel. It was the scary thing. So they would have these surgeries, and these guys tendons, they would say, were never the same length as they were before. So you never had that same spring, that same pop, that same explosiveness. They never had this, were able to get that strength back. Their legs looked smaller. And the reasoning of that was because they had to stay in a walking boot and be non-weight bearing for so long. Now they've changed that, and you're almost on your feet immediately. You're weight bearing. You can do some things like that, which is scary when we first started doing that, because you think of that thing being so fragile, but it's a thick tendon. But obviously you're not going to stress it crazy right away. But yeah, they let you get on your feet, and that way this tendon doesn't shorten up. That way it stays that normal length, and then you can get that strength through that calf like you weren't able to do earlier, because when you put weight through something, you stress it, you make it gain some strength, you're using it, so it doesn't allow for that atrophy that these guys were getting. And I think of all those instances you just mentioned, and they look amazing. So it's a much shorter recovery. He's coming back, I think it'll be about 9 months. You mentioned Akers came back pretty quickly, so it's no longer the dagger that it used to be. Think of a season-ending injury when you hear Achilles surgery, but I still wouldn't want to have it. That's still probably my number one thing I wouldn't want to have.
Yeah.
But it is much, much better to rehab from, and these guys are coming back, obviously at a very close percentage of what they used to be versus a good chunk less. So yeah, I'd say the Achilles rehab process has made major milestone leaps in the past couple of years, and we've seen it in the NBA the most, I think, and then football last year with the playoffs with the Rams and how that's come along, and now this guy's killing it too. So it's impressive, and it's good to see, because that used to be, like you said, the career ender for some guys.
Yeah, it's unbelievable to think back of, like, I know that the ACL used to be the one where maybe not necessarily a career ender, but it's like if you have one, it's like the feeling is just you're never the same, or you're susceptible to another one. I know I'm a Panthers fan, so Thomas Davis, I think, tore his ACLs combined 3 times, I want to say, but then that was in the first couple of years of his career, maybe partially in college. And then he had a very successful career leading into his early, not quite mid-30s as a linebacker. So it's pretty unbelievable that, thinking about that when we were younger, how that was kind of viewed. And Achilles was just probably just a given of, like, your career is never the same, and how it's changed this dramatically. I know it's still early in a lot of these guys' recoveries to see how they, over the course of the next 3 years, how do you play? But I know the lifespan of an NFL player, certainly a running back, is not too long anyway. So it might be tough to really evaluate it. But Cam Akers, honestly, I think Cam Akers and James Robinson are about the same age, or Cam Akers might be a year younger. So they're going to be the test cases to see how they,
see how they hold up.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's just crazy what they're doing now. They're making so many advances in these protocols and different surgeries and stuff. And the ACL one, they're making big improvements, because they're using different grafts now. Like, they're using part of your quad now versus they used to use part of your patellar tendon. They used to use well, they still do, but they would use hamstring a lot. But now they're starting to use the quad tendon, and it's twice the strength, or twice the size, really. And so it's twice the strength. So they're doing all these things now to stabilize these, structures that need to be really strong on these guys. And so they're finding ways. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Well, the next one here, I think there's still a lot of ambiguity to it. It was kind of weirdly funny to hear the coach of the Seahawks talk about it, Pete Carroll, talking about Kenneth Walker III here. He on or about either the week of the 22nd in August or the week before that. That part is also reasonably unclear. Pete Carroll said he had a hernia thing, literally, and then he called it uncharted territory. So I don't really know what that means. I didn't see if he was maybe back on the practice field or not, but there's him saying hernia, which when he calls it a hernia thing, I have no idea where he's going. It's hernia or sports hernia. And I know sports hernia is certainly more severe, but what is truly the difference between the two of those? So the hernia versus the sports hernia.
Right. It's a good question. So we'll start with the hernia. So hernia, you think of these older gentlemen, right? Saying, "Oh, I got a hernia." So they what happens is you have like this little canal. It's like a little tube that goes kind of from your abdomen down to the groin area. And so it carries some important structures, but sometimes that canal can get like a little tear in it. And what actually happens is kind of disgusting is your intestines bulge through that tear. And so, yeah. So, and that's the old turn and cough check.
Yeah.
Check for hernia there. So,
Gotcha.
they can, because it happens when you either bear down or you brace or you're, lifting or straining something. So they have you cough, so you bear down, and that's when they can feel the bulge. So they're checking for a hernia.
Gotcha.
So that's the nasty one. The sports hernia is more of, you think of a groin injury or an oblique. So anything that attaches to the pelvis or the hips. It can be a small tear. It can be something's completely plucked off the bone. But
oh man,
you've got this guy who had the hernia thing, which is probably the sports hernia. He could have had either his groin, it's called his adductor, or you have it from your oblique as it comes down into the pelvis as well. But Curtis Samuel had this last year, and he struggled with it. He had surgery early, and they called it abdomen surgery. I don't know exactly what they repaired, but it said abdomen surgery, and he couldn't get healthy. The sports hernia is going to bother you more with cutting, change of direction, twisting, shiftiness. So that's obviously why these guys are getting these injuries. And if this guy comes back this quick from it, it's going to be very, very impressive. But it's a hard one to come back from because, whatever they're operating on, they have to stitch, they have to re-anchor or anything like that. It's always got that potential for re-injury. And I think that's what happened to Curtis Samuel is he kept re-injuring it, and he'd get back up to full speed, he thinks, and then boom, he'd re-injure it and then go back out for multiple weeks. And so I'm hoping this year he can be back and ready. And then you hope this injury for the Seahawks turns out better than what happened with Curtis Samuel, because this could be a big, annoyance for him if it doesn't heal right. But yeah, groin or oblique injury for the sports hernia versus the old intestines for hernia.
Yeah. I'd heard the regular hernia one before of someone had talked about that they'd had that, and just does not sound like a good time at all. But no, the Curtis Samuel one, because that was a good point. I was so bummed when I think he earned the money he deserved. I think it was following Ron Rivera. So when he got that coaching job, I don't know if that was once Ron Rivera was there and they had signed him to the big contract or something pretty close to that, but he earned every bit of that in terms of what he had done in Carolina year over year, getting better. Again, a very shifty guy. I think he was kind of an H-back back at Ohio State. So, but translated all of his skills very well to the NFL. But one, he should have an unbelievable season this year. I think with you got McLaurin, you got Dotson to help alleviate some of the pressure. So Samuel can kind of be what he was in Carolina, of like the 3 or the 2B kind of guy. And hopefully Wentz, everything else will be a little more stable for him there. But yeah, Kenneth Walker. I mean, ironically enough, you already have Rashad Penny, who is made of glass, but ended his season last year. I mean, at a pace that I think people expected him to start his career when he was drafted in back of the first round by the Seahawks a couple years ago. So, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be they're down to DJ Dallas and Travis Homer once Penny and Kenneth
Yeah,
Walker get
they're
hurt,
getting-
but
They're getting thin.
yeah.
So you hope those guys are healthy. Like you said, Penny, he's kind of made of glass. Like you said, he gets injured a lot. So
Yeah, I do. I did. This was before the hernia thing. I did say that I was thinking Penny's actually going to outscore Kenneth Walker for fantasy, and a reasonable amount of people did not at all agree. Just because, of course, Kenneth Walker fans, of course, being a big running back, having an unbelievable final season, transferring over to Michigan State. But we'll see how it shakes out. At a minimum, I really want them both to be on the field so you can truly see a competition and not, oh, Kenneth Walker was out for 6 games and like obviously he would have been better.
Right.
It's like I want it to be a real fair competition. But
yeah, absolutely.
but
they've always had a good running attack, so you never know too. They might use them as a 2-headed monster. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Hey, with Geno Smith under center, I think you need every bit of help you can get.
Yeah, they'll take it.
Yeah.
You're right about that.
We've got 2 more here. This one, kind of another ambiguous one. Michael Thomas, wide receiver for the Saints. Of course, he was the one, I believe, breaking the catch record for the regular season a couple years back. And of course, that was great for fantasy. And missed about half of the 2020 season and all of the 2021 season. It was talk of some ankle ligament damage that he put off surgery. And then he ended up, I think, having multiple surgeries after waiting a bit. So is that something, maybe, I'm sure it depends on the injury, but a viable strategy in terms of avoiding surgery and trying their best to, I guess, naturally heal? And maybe that's a more seamless transition to get back to full strength and not be capped?
Yeah, I think so. The way I see it is these guys, they don't want to have to go under the knife. They don't want to have a cut on their body, scar tissue accumulate, and then have something be either repaired or replaced. It's one of those things is your body's designed the way it is perfectly, right? That's the way we're meant to move and all that stuff. So if all of a sudden you have a new cut in your body from a knife, that's, like I said, scar tissue forming, that creates an issue. But if you get something repaired or even reconstructed, that's something that's additional or new, and it's never going to be the same as the original, which the original was perfect. That's the way it's meant to be. So I view it as that's never going to be the 100% of what you were, no matter how strong it is, no matter how well it works. It's just not the original thing. So I think guys a lot of times try and work through these things and go alternative routes, whether it be these newer things, PRP injections, prolotherapy, cortisone, stem cell, all these things that they're trying to do now to promote natural healing growth versus a cut. And so one I think of last year that tried to do that was, I think he knew he's going to have surgery, but Baker Mayfield played all year with an injury. And again, I think he knew he was going to have surgery, but he's one that fought it out and it did not. Well, he's in Carolina, so it panned out, but he got the absolute trash treatment. He's stuck out his gut for that team. And then they said, so see you, pal.
Yeah.
So that one is kind of disheartening, but with Michael Thomas, his injury, so the deltoid ligament is the ligament on the inside part of the ankle, not the outside. Like when you roll your ankle, it's not that one. It's the inside. And it is a very, very strong, it's called a ligament complex actually. And it's a couple of them together and it stabilizes that inside part of the ankle. And it's not one that you see too often that's injured because of how strong it is and how hard it is to injure that. But yeah, you don't know the severity of what he had, but yeah, he tried not to do surgery and tried to rehab it on his own and it just didn't work out. And then, like you said, he has the other surgery as well. He actually had that same surgery that Tua had on the high ankle sprain. So he had that surgery and he had the surgery to stabilize the inside part of the ankle. So now you get 2 surgeries versus possibly just one. And it comes back to that same topic we were talking about earlier. Well, because I think I saw he injured his hamstring recently. So, did he have this injury now because he was compensating for post-surgical soreness or something like that? So you just kind of, if you do, you might be in trouble. If you don't, you might be in trouble. So one of those things that is so tough to know. But I think guys want to try and keep their natural tendons, muscles, ligaments, if they can, without having to get anything repaired, because again, it's just not their natural piece and doesn't function as well. So that's why you're seeing all these crazy stem cells, prolotherapy, PRPs, all these different types of things because they want to keep their own. And it's quick.
There you go. Well, I know that's the kind of thing, like every preseason or like in training camps and stuff, you throw up your hands whenever you see that hamstring injury, certainly before there's even actual preseason games, if it's just in camp, because it's just like, all right, well, the season's done because you're going to be in and out, and like it's just kind of something that lingers, and certainly maybe it could be indicative of, like you were saying, if there was surgeries or if there's just something that they're trying to adjust for, that if it's not what their body's used to, they're trying to figure out what the new body is, and maybe they don't like that very much. But yeah, so we've got one more here, and this guy, he will be playing tomorrow night, or when this is released, it'll be tonight. Matthew Stafford. So he is going into his second season in LA. I think he had a pretty good first season. He left Detroit.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
He left Detroit, thank God, and went to LA, surrounded by weapons, still surrounded by weapons, and has an even better defense with Bobby Wagner as the guy behind Aaron Donald and in front of Jalen Ramsey. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Keep stacking up.
It's crazy. And I think it was the first week in August, they were talking about he's got some elbow tendonitis that they didn't really say whether it was they kind of just, he treat it, he plays with it, you kind of deal with it. And when I saw elbow tendonitis, without knowing anything, it felt like something that sounded like it could affect the longevity of his career, certainly because it's in his throwing elbow. And I don't know in terms of, do you think that's something like that where maybe within this season, they just kind of do whatever they possibly can, certainly avoid an injury in the offseason, but just kind of acknowledge like we need to monitor this because, if this gets significantly worse, you could be playing 3 less years than you thought.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's one of those things I've been trying to listen and figure out that they're not really putting out full information on what exactly it was. Cause you've got tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, you got, UCLs from all this stuff. So throwers really stress their elbows, baseball, football, anything that's a throwing sport. So you got the milder ones, which is a tennis elbow, which is just the outside part of the elbow. I'm not sure if that's what it is. You got golfer's elbow, which is on the inside part. That can be it as well. But then you've got the UCL area. Now that's more ligament damage, but any of those can be playing a part. So he might have some UCL damage that they're not talking about. And so his muscles around the elbow are trying to guard and protect that area. And so it's creating tendonitis there. Now that's very big speculation, but you just don't know. They don't release this stuff. It's kind of like hockey. They say upper body injury or lower body injury, and you have no clue what it is. It could be a hand. It could be a shoulder. You have no idea. So this one, they're, at least from what I've tried to find, is they're keeping it kind of close in on what exactly it was. But any of those, the elbow is a very finicky thing to treat. It's such a small area. It's a lot of tendons and ligaments that surround it. The muscles are not big because of such a small area. Your forearm muscles aren't very big. So when you have to work with these muscles, there's not much support or stability there to work with. So they are nagging, annoying things to get better, because anytime you lift something or open a doorknob, open a jar, it can be that simple. It aggravates those muscles because they're so small. And so it's going to be tough for him. And I know he's been resting some. He has not been going crazy, but I think I heard the other day he threw 70 some passes. I mean, that's a ton. And then, so with those injuries, the best thing you want is rest. And if he's not resting, that thing's going to continue to kind of linger. And, maybe they've gotten it controlled now to where he's doing okay. But I'm sure he's had cortisone injections or something like that to help get through it. But as long as this thing is going to be bothering him, this season's going to be a little annoying for him. He's going to have to be getting treatment on it every day. I'm sure after game days, he's going to be really sore. But they got all the stuff in the world in the NFL to treat these guys, but I got a feeling that will bother him throughout the season, and he'll have days where it's really flared up, and then he'll have days where it feels good, and hopefully his days that it feels good are on game days. But I'm sure he will be taking easier days of practice during the week, and not throwing the ball as much. But we'll kind of see how that affects him during the games if he's got still that really good accuracy he had last year and those no look passes and all that junk he was pulling out.
Yeah.
So, but for career wise, it could be one of those things that lasts this year, and then if it starts to heal up or even in the off season, they can get it taken care of. So hopefully not a career thing, but definitely something that will kind of come and go throughout this year just because of how annoying elbow injuries are. But depending on which one of those three it was, that's the thing is I can't figure out which one it was. So hopefully it's not the UCL because that could be one that really does linger. That's a big one. So hopefully it's not that.
And he made a good point there too, because I don't know if this has any bearing on what it is. And again, I guess we don't technically know what specifically they're saying it is, but is it when you hear the quarterbacks and they talk about the guys that have the arm talent, they throw off platform. So it's the guys like Stafford, like Mahomes, like like Aaron Rodgers, the ones where it's the no look passes, or it's they kind of manipulate their arm in the way they need to kind of get the ball where it needs to go. I'm sure that's not the natural way that their arm would want to go. And certainly if they're rifling the ball as hard as they can, being probably 32 of the hardest football throwers in the world, quite possibly. I didn't know if that's maybe something that could affect them in a certain way, or maybe their body and their arm and everything protects them in a way to where it's like they can do that, but since they've practiced that and done that before, maybe it doesn't cause too much undue stress. And this is sincerely just some kind of freak thing that's happened to Stafford.
Right. Yeah. I mean, these guys, you see them do so many. Pat Mahomes, especially, he's always doing some sort of weird angle throw and running this way and throwing that way. I mean, the guy is just incredible. But yeah, you look at the way their arms move, and they have some crazy range of motion and strength.
Yeah.
So they are set to do that stuff. But yeah, the more you do it, there's always more chance for it to injure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, these guys, they train that way, and their arms are ready. I mean, you look at some submarine pitchers in the MLB, and you don't really see that too often anymore. But yeah, they just repetitive. Eventually, it's going to give, and so you just don't know if Stafford's finally gave way. It got irritated, but yeah, you look at Mahomes and you're thinking, how does he not injure his elbow with the stuff he does or shoulder? But it's these guys are just so good at what they do, and they train daily to work on this stuff. So they do a good job at making sure everything's operating the way it should. So it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, Trev, that was we're talking injuries here, and let me go ahead and transition here into the ending. So Trev, I mean, we've talked a little Northern Virginia, we've talked a little college experience, we've talked many injuries. I appreciate your insights. I appreciate you coming on, but the guests on the podcast here, they always get the final word. This could be a plug for yourself or someone special. It could be parting words, could be a cheers, could be a quote. You could insult somebody if you want to. The floor is yours, Trev. So give me what you got.
Oh, all right. I'll since you said insult, I'll do kind of an insult, and then I'll do a question for you, Chu, a funny one. So my insult or my please get it done is for the old Commandos. Please, can we have some normalcy of this season? It's already started off crazy. Somebody got shot. We're hearing Chase Young might have aggravated his injury. There's all these things with Dan Snyder. Can we have a normal season and do okay? Is that too much to ask? That's something I am really looking forward to. And then funny one for you, Chu. So this made me think of you. I saw some guy standing in the Kroger parking lot as I drove by the other day, wearing a dress and holding a sign. And he was wearing a wig too. Had a sign that said, "I lost fantasy football." Do any of your leagues have a loser's bet they must complete?
It's funny that you say that. There's not any that I've done a full season with yet that has been some big thing. The one that we had in college, we kind of tried to create something, but it's kind of hard to keep people honest with it. Of like, we tried to get something to do with like a Justin Bieber CD, and you had to like be able to like listen to it, and it was or like a poster. It was some whole thing, so it wasn't really too good, and it didn't really stick. But there is one that I haven't fully got the explanation for it, but it's a league I literally joined and did the draft a week or two ago. And based on some of the pictures that were sent in the group message, I think that this is the punishment if you finish in last. You basically have to take a like a calendar photo shoot looking like
Oh,
nude photo, but like craftily cover yourself up. Like, and like, I think one guy had like a whiskey bottle, like, and it was like in like, so like in like, it was perfectly set up like at the angle of the camera and the picture and all that.
oh
So
my
it has to
God.
be some sort of like calendar, like risque photo shoot.
Yeah.
So that's what
Holy
I've seen.
cow.
That would probably be the wildest one I've seen of a league I've been in. But I've certainly seen
Right.
I've seen the Waffle House one where you have to go to Waffle House and be there for 24 hours, but every waffle that you eat cuts off an hour. So however you do that,
Oh,
that's a
all
fun
right.
one. Yeah,
That's new. I haven't heard that one. That's funny.
yeah. But no,
Yeah, I
thankfully,
died laughing at that guy.
oh man, and that's funny too because it's like hopefully I know like with some of the leagues I'm in, like I mean like it's with people that are like across the East Coast, or I mean even probably some on the West Coast as well. So if you have like league mates in like around where you are, so like he's doing that, putting the dress on and everything and holding that sign, I'm hoping he has some league mates like in the area that are actually like just hounding
yeah.
him. And yeah,
They were all around him and they were saying like they were like raising their hands up and saying like honk your horn. It was hilarious. And of course
oh
I
man,
honked at him and he just went. It was so funny.
win it next year, buddy.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe do better.
Oh man, that's fantastic. No, well, Trev, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for talking a little injuries. Looking forward to the football season starting. Of course, college football will be, I guess, entering week 2. So enjoy that Virginia Tech game. Hopefully, it's smoother sailing than the previous week.
Hopefully it's better. You're right. And then football tomorrow night, baby. Here we go. NFL.
Let's do it, buddy. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem, Chill.